So we've talked about every single one of the draft prospects that Howie Roseman and the Philadelphia Eagles took in the 2024 NFL Draft. We did our draft grades, and now it's time to take a gander at the UDFAs who are making their way to Philadelphia as part of our UDFA Tracker. You're watching Eagles Now by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr. Let's wrap up draft weekend together here. As for the entire UDFA list for Philadelphia, just some notes here. It is a smaller class as compared to previous years for a couple of reasons. Howie Roseman indicated yesterday that the Eagles put more of an emphasis on their end-of-the-season futures contracts, including players like Julian Okwara, the edge rusher, used to play for the Lions, offensive lineman Darian Kennard, and less on some of the UDFAs this year due to the lacking quality of talent in this year's draft, because what teams found out is that a lot of players decided to go back to college because of the lucrative NIL money that they were able to gather at the college level. So Kendall Milton, running back, Gabe Hall, defensive tackle, and Milton went to Georgia, Gabe Hall, Baylor, Talik, Keaton, wide receiver out of Marshall, McCallan Castles getting a lot of money from Philadelphia. They clearly like the player. Some reports indicate he's getting $230,000. So that could go a long way in him battling for a roster spot. He played his college ball at Tennessee. Anim Dankwah, the offensive tackle out of Howard. Andre Sam, the safety from LSU. And Kanion Williams, a safety who played his collegiate ball at Tulsa. Couple of the more notable players on this list certainly jump off the screen at you, and one of the players includes Kendall Milton, who led the Georgia Bulldogs in rushing touchdowns last year, has a pretty good body of work at the college level, 6'1.5", 225 pounds. So some solid size there for Milton. He's a well-built athlete when you look at the weight, of course, and you can certainly see that with the way that he plays. He plays very physical, too, and approaches the game with a hard-nosed attitude. That's because he had a linebacker background. Now, at the NFL Combine, he ran a 4.62 40-yard dash, and that's a big reason why he did not get drafted, but pretty steady production the last 2 years at Georgia. In 2022, 85 carries, 592 yards, 8 touchdowns. Only 5 catches, 64, so kind of a one-dimensional player. And then in 2023, 121 carries, 790 yards, 6.5 yards per tote, and 7 yards per carry 2 years ago. And the 14 touchdowns for him led the Georgia Bulldogs. Great college program, incredible team. He runs a little bit tall and he's a little bit slower, so that's why he wasn't high on a lot of teams' draft boards. As for Gabe Hall is certainly an interesting player here because Philadelphia throughout the draft did not take a defensive tackle. They went edge with Jalix Hunt out of Houston Christian. Gabe Hall was a top 150 player on a lot of draft boards. He was a good player at Baylor, and he has a lot of height to him for playing defensive tackle. 6'6", 294 pounds. I thought that he could potentially go in the 4th or 5th round. So for the Eagles to get him as a UDFA, they certainly prioritized one of the signings here. I think that he can make an impact for this team because Philadelphia kind of looking for that 4th defensive tackle. You have PJ Mustafa, who's a backup nose, who's on the periphery of this roster. The shoo-ins to make the team, of course, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Milton Williams, but that 4th, maybe 5th defensive tackle spot up in the air. He ran a 5.03 40-yard dash at that size, and for Baylor in 2023, 3.5 TFLs, 2 sacks. The year before that, 5.5 TFLs with 4.5 sacks. Ace is the eye test for sure with that tall, large frame. I think he's really strong, really good length. 83 and 5/8 wingspan with 34.5-inch arms. He can bend a little bit, but sometimes the coordination can break down just a tad. So Gabe Hall and Milton, definitely two of the top Philadelphia Eagles UDFAs on this list, and we'll see if they're going to be able to crack this 53-man roster. Talik Keaton, wide receiver out of Marshall. 5'10", 182 pounds, slow. 4.81 40-yard dash in the pre-draft process. Wasn't all that fast as far as the 20-yard split or the 10-yard split either. A limited athlete at Marshall. Be sure to subscribe to us here on Philadelphia Eagles Now. We've had you covered with draft coverage. We went live for 20 hours from Thursday through Saturday. Back at it on the grind for this UDFA tracker here on Sunday. Approaching 74,000 subscribers. Incredible. Make sure you hit that sub button right now. Today's show, sponsored by Prize Picks. Daily fantasy sports made easy. The Eagles picking up these UDFAs. Make sure you pick Prize Picks. Pick 2 or more players. Choose more or less on their projected stats, and you can win up to 25 times your money. $100 deposit match. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Our selections for the fraudulent Philadelphia 76ers as they lost Game 4, a pivotal game, to the New York Knicks. Now the Knicks up 3-1 going back to MSG on Tuesday night. We had Jalen Brunson and Tyrese Maxey more than 57.5 points combined. Brunson nearly had that by himself. Joel Embiid, more than 10 rebounds. He had 10 right on the nose. Kelly Oubre, more than 15.5 points in rebounds. He went more. And then Dante DiVincenzo, less than 13.5 points. We cashed in. You can cash in as well. And just like myself and producer Chip, you can win big-time money and withdraw your winnings all within the Prize Picks app. McCallan Castles. Let's discuss him coming up next here on the show. A tight end out of Tennessee who is getting a lot of guaranteed money for Philadelphia. Some of these reports are always a little bit fluid, but it's somewhere in the neighborhood of $200,000 or so. And that's pretty significant money for a team to give a UDFA. That shows you that they like the player, and he's going to have a chance to compete, maybe be on the practice squad if he can't crack the 53. And, of course, that's more realistic. Castles, 6'4" 3/8", 244 pounds. He's from South Lake Tahoe, California. A little bit of an older rookie at 24 years old. Anim Dankwah, offensive tackle from Howard. He certainly has a lot of intriguing athletic qualities. He's huge, and now he enters Jeff Stoutland University, another one of these older prospects who grew up in Toronto, Canada, and he's 24 too, 6'7", nearly 6'8", at 349 pounds. A large athlete here who I think could be one of those players that Jeff Stoutland wants to get an extended look at throughout rookie minicamp, if he's able to make it to training camp, because that physical upside is certainly there for him. Andre Sam, safety, LSU. We'll see what the Eagles' plans are for Cooper DeJean at the safety spot, because right now Philadelphia, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Reed Blankenship, Sidney Brown, maybe Cooper DeJean, they might be set at that safety position. But anytime you bring in a player who goes to a program like LSU, you're like, okay, let's see what he can bring to the table. 25 years old, very old senior, 5'10", 193 pounds. Kanion Williams, a safety who played his college ball at Tulsa. So Philadelphia going with a couple of safeties here to see what potential they could potentially have. He's from Dallas, Texas, so didn't go a long ways to play his college ball at Tulsa. 6'3", 200 pounds. So I like the size at the safety position for Williams. There are also minicamp invites. Praise Olatoke used to play at Ohio State. He is a track star and was a track star at Ohio State. He's coming to Philadelphia by way of the International Pathway Program. He ran a 4.3 40-yard dash at the Ohio State Pro Day in the pre-draft process. And then rounding out that list, Jacob Roberts, linebacker out of Wake Forest, and then Sean Stevens, cornerback, Ferris State from the Division II level. Who is your favorite UDFA that the Eagles signed? If we're going to talk about a realistic shot to crack this roster, for me it's Gabe Hall out of Baylor. I really like that pickup.